My brother Marcus thought my business cards were some kind of joke. He'd wave them around at family dinners, laughing about my pretend company and asking when I was going to get a real job. But when his boss, Diana Chen, called me last Tuesday morning and addressed me as ma'am, with the kind of respect reserved for million-dollar clients, Marcus suddenly wasn't laughing anymore. In fact, he went completely silent. And what happened next? Well, let me start from the beginning. I'd love to know which corner of the globe you're watching from. And if this story speaks to you, make sure to subscribe. Tomorrow's video is one you absolutely can't miss. The whole thing started 6 months ago when I decided to leave my corporate marketing job at Henderson & Associates. I'd been there for 3 years, climbing the ladder, wearing the same gray suits, attending the same mind-numbing meetings about quarterly projections and brand synergy. The final straw came during a presentation where my boss took credit for a campaign I'd designed from scratch, a campaign that ended up bringing in $2 million in new business. That night, I went home to my studio apartment in downtown Phoenix and made a decision that would change everything. I was going to start my own digital marketing consultancy. The idea wasn't completely out of left field. I'd been freelancing on weekends for months, helping small businesses in Scottsdale and Tempe build their online presence. My client roster was small but growing: a boutique coffee roaster, a vintage clothing store, a local yoga instructor who wanted to expand her online classes. Nothing glamorous, but each project taught me something new about running a business independently. My younger brother Marcus, however, saw things differently. At 26, he worked as a junior analyst at Morrison Financial Group, one of those glass tower firms that dominated the Phoenix skyline. He wore expensive suits, drove a leased BMW, and never missed an opportunity to remind everyone at family gatherings about his stable career path and corporate benefits package. When I announced my decision to go freelance at Mom's birthday dinner, Marcus nearly choked on his salmon. "You're kidding, right?" he said, dabbing his mouth with his napkin. "Alice, you're 30 years old. Don't you think it's time to stop being an entrepreneur and focus on building a real career?" The rest of the family shifted uncomfortably. Dad cleared his throat and asked Mom about dessert. My sister Emma changed the subject to her upcoming wedding plans, but Marcus wasn't done. "I mean, what are you even going to call this business? Alice's Amateur Hour?" I kept my voice level. "Sterling Creative Solutions. I've already registered the LLC and secured the domain." Marcus laughed, not a good-natured chuckle, but the kind of laugh that makes your stomach twist. "Sterling Creative Solutions? That sounds like something you'd make up for a high school business project." 2 weeks later, my business cards arrived from the printer. I'd spent hours perfecting the design: clean typography, subtle silver foil accents, premium cardstock that felt substantial between your fingers. The logo was simple but professional, a stylized S that incorporated elements suggesting both creativity and growth. Under my name, it read Founder and Creative Director in elegant font. I was proud of those cards. They represented everything I was building. Every late night I'd spent learning new software, every client call I'd handled with growing confidence. Marcus saw them during Sunday brunch at our parents' house and immediately burst into laughter. "Oh, this is rich," he said, holding one of my cards up to the light like he was examining a counterfeit bill. "Founder and Creative Director. Alice, you realize you're the only employee, right? That's like me calling myself the CEO of my apartment." He passed the card around the table. "Look at this fancy paper. How much did you spend on these? Because I hate to break it to you, but Kinko's makes business cards for like $20. "These aren't from Kinko's," I said quietly. "Of course they're not, because you're Sterling Creative Solutions now." He made air quotes with his fingers. "Tell me, Miss Creative Director, how many clients do you have? 5? 3? Or are we still in the 'my friend's cousin needs a Facebook page' stage of business?" The truth was, I had 7 regular clients by that point, and my monthly revenue had just crossed the $4,000 mark. Not enough to quit my day job yet, but enough to see the potential. But Marcus's dismissive tone made me feel like I was 12 years old again, trying to convince him that my lemonade stand was a legitimate business venture. "At least I'm trying to build something," I said. "Building what? A house of cards? Alice, I work with real entrepreneurs, people who've raised millions, who employ hundreds of people. This isn't how business works. Mom intervened before I could respond, suggesting we all move to the living room for coffee. But Marcus wasn't finished with his performance. Throughout the rest of the afternoon, he kept pulling out my business card, showing it to people like it was a party trick. "Check this out," he'd say to Dad or Emma. "Alice's fake business card. Isn't the font fancy? Very professional for a pretend company." By the time I left that day, my jaw ached from clenching my teeth. The weeks that followed were a blur of late nights and early mornings. I was still working my corporate job during the day, then rushing home to handle client calls, design social media campaigns, and update websites. My coffee table became my desk, my laptop never left my side, and I lived on a diet of energy bars and determination. But something was happening. My client base was expanding. The coffee roaster I'd been working with saw a 40% increase in online orders. The vintage clothing store's Instagram followers tripled in 2 months. Word was spreading, and my phone started ringing with inquiries from businesses I'd never heard of. Marcus remained skeptical. Every family gathering became an opportunity for him to ask about my hobby business with that same condescending smile. He'd make jokes about my fancy titles and ask if I was ready to join the real world yet. The breaking point came 3 months after I'd started Sterling Creative Solutions. I was at Mom's house helping her set up a new smart TV when Marcus arrived, still wearing his work clothes, a sharp charcoal suit that probably cost more than I made in a week. "How's the pretend business going?" he asked, loosening his tie. "It's going well, actually. I just signed 3 new clients this week." He raised an eyebrow. 3 whole clients? Wow. Maybe you can afford to upgrade from those fake business cards to something really impressive. Have you considered adding Supreme Commander of Marketing to your title? "You know what, Marcus? You can mock me all you want, but I'm building something real here, something that matters." "Something that matters?" He sat down heavily in Dad's recliner. "Alice, I see the numbers every day at work. Real businesses, real revenue streams, real growth metrics. What you're doing is like playing house, but with business cards." That night, I made another decision that would prove crucial weeks later. I was tired of operating out of my apartment, tired of taking client calls from my kitchen table. So I rented a small office space in a converted warehouse in the Arts District. Nothing fancy, just a clean white room with good lighting and enough space for a proper desk and a small meeting area. I also hired my first employee, Sarah Martinez, a recent ASU graduate with a degree in graphic design and more Instagram followers than some celebrities. She was young, hungry, and brilliant with visual content. Having someone else in the office transformed everything. Suddenly, we were bouncing ideas off each other, dividing projects, actually functioning like a real team. Marcus's reaction when he heard about the office was predictable. "An office? Alice, that's like buying a uniform for a sport you don't actually play. How much is that costing you per month? Because unless you're pulling in some serious revenue, you're just playing dress up with your savings account." But by then, something had shifted in me. His words still stung, but they didn't derail me the way they used to. I was too busy handling the flood of new projects that seemed to arrive daily. Sterling Creative Solutions was becoming exactly what I'd envisioned, a boutique agency that helped businesses tell their stories in ways that actually connected with customers. The irony was that Morrison Financial Group, Marcus's company, was starting to struggle with their own marketing. I'd noticed their social media presence was practically non-existent. Their website looked like it hadn't been updated since 2018, and their brand messaging was about as inspiring as a tax document. But I kept that observation to myself. At least, I kept it to myself until Diana Chen called me on that Tuesday morning, asking if Sterling Creative Solutions might be interested in discussing a potential partnership with Morrison Financial Group. Diana Chen's voice had the kind of authority that comes from years of closing deals and managing million-dollar portfolios. When she introduced herself as Senior Vice President of Strategic Development at Morrison Financial Group, I nearly dropped my coffee mug.
Miss Sterling, I hope I'm not catching you at a bad time. I've been researching digital marketing agencies in the Phoenix area, and your company's name keeps appearing in conversations with some very satisfied clients. I walked to my office window, looking out at the bustling arts district below. A street artist was setting up his easel near the coffee shop where I'd had my first client meeting just 4 months earlier. The contrast wasn't lost on me. I appreciate you reaching out, Miss Chen. What kind of project did you have in mind? Well, that's what I'd like to discuss in person, if possible. Morrison Financial Group is looking to completely overhaul our brand presence. We're talking website redesign, social media strategy, content marketing, and the works. Our current approach isn't generating the kind of engagement we need to stay competitive.
A lot of love and effort went into bringing this story to life. If you're enjoying it, we'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe to our channel. Now, back to where we left off. I scheduled the meeting for Thursday afternoon, giving myself 2 days to research Morrison Financial Group thoroughly. What I discovered was fascinating. Despite being one of Phoenix's most established investment firms, their digital footprint was practically invisible. Their LinkedIn had sporadic posts about market volatility. Their website looked like a template from 2015. They had a Twitter account with 847 followers and hadn't posted anything in 6 weeks. For a company that managed over $300 million in client assets, they were surprisingly behind the curve on digital marketing. Sarah helped me prepare a comprehensive proposal. We analyzed their competitors, identified gaps in their current strategy, and developed a 12-month plan that would transform them from digital dinosaurs into industry thought leaders. Thursday morning arrived with typical Arizona sunshine. I chose a navy blazer and my most professional heels, printed our proposal on the same premium paper as my business cards, and drove to Morrison's glass tower downtown. The elevator ride to the 42nd floor gave me time to center myself. This wasn't just another client meeting. This was Marcus's workplace, the company he'd been bragging about for 2 years. The place where he worked alongside real entrepreneurs who understood how business actually works. Diana Chen's office commanded a panoramic view of the valley. She was younger than I'd expected, maybe 40, with sharp intelligence behind designer glasses. When she stood to shake my hand, her grip was firm and confident. "Miss Sterling, thank you for coming. Please have a seat. Can I offer you coffee, water?" We spent the first 10 minutes discussing Morrison's history and current challenges. Diana was refreshingly direct about their shortcomings. "Frankly, we've been coasting on reputation and referrals for too long. Our client base is aging, and we're not attracting the younger demographics who represent the future of wealth management. Our partners finally acknowledged that we need professional help." I opened my proposal folder. "I've done some preliminary research on your current digital presence, and I think there's enormous potential for growth." For the next 30 minutes, I walked her through our analysis. Sarah's graphics were stunning. Clean charts showing competitor comparisons, mock-ups of what their website could look like, sample social media campaigns that would position Morrison as forward-thinking financial advisors rather than stuffy investment managers. Diana asked intelligent questions. She understood the metrics I was showing her, grasped the long-term value of content marketing, and seemed genuinely excited about the possibility of Morrison becoming a digital leader in their industry. "This is exactly the kind of comprehensive thinking we need," she said, flipping through the proposal pages. "Your team clearly understands both the technical aspects and the strategic vision." "We pride ourselves on seeing the bigger picture," I replied. "It's not enough to post regularly on social media. Every piece of content needs to serve your broader business goals." I have to ask, how long has Sterling Creative Solutions been operating? This level of sophistication usually comes from agencies with decades of experience. We're a boutique firm that's been growing strategically rather than rapidly. Quality over quantity has always been our approach. Diana smiled. Smart philosophy. Too many agencies try to be everything to everyone and end up diluting their expertise. She walked to her window, hands clasped behind her back. "I'd like to move forward with this proposal, but I need to get buy-in from our partners. Would you be available for a presentation next Tuesday, say 2 o'clock? "Absolutely." "Excellent. I'll have our conference room set up, and we'll have about 8 partners in attendance. Fair warning, some of them are old school and skeptical about digital marketing. You'll need to make a compelling case. As I gathered my materials, Diana walked me to her office door. Oh, one more thing. Do you happen to know Marcus Sterling? He works in our analysis department. Same last name, any relation? My heart skipped. He's my brother. Her eyebrows rose slightly. Really? How interesting. He's never mentioned having a sister in marketing. Actually, he's never mentioned having a sister at all. I forced a smile. We don't talk much about work at family dinners. Well, this should make for interesting conversation around your Thanksgiving table. The elevator ride down felt surreal. In less than an hour, I'd potentially landed the biggest client in Sterling Creative Solutions' short history. And Marcus had no idea what was coming. I drove back to my office in a daze, calling Sarah the moment I walked through the door. "How did it go?" she asked, looking up from her computer. "They want a full presentation next Tuesday. 8 partners. This could be huge." Sarah's eyes widened. "The Morrison account? Alice, that's incredible. What's the scope?" "Complete digital transformation. Website, social media, content marketing, possibly even some traditional advertising integration. She mentioned it could be a 12-month contract." We spent the rest of the afternoon calculating what a Morrison contract might mean for our revenue projections. Even conservative estimates showed numbers that would allow us to hire additional staff, move to a larger office, and establish Sterling Creative Solutions as a major player in Phoenix's marketing landscape. But first, we had to nail the presentation. The weekend flew by in a blur of preparation. Sarah designed presentation slides that were visual poetry. Every graph told a story, every mock-up demonstrated transformation potential. I practiced my talking points until I could deliver them conversationally while still hitting every crucial detail. Monday night, I called Mom to let her know I might be late for Sunday dinner the following week. "Working on a big project," I explained. "That's wonderful, honey. Your father and I are so proud of how hard you're working. Marcus mentioned you rented an office space." I paused. "He mentioned that?" "Oh, yes. He thinks it's very ambitious of you. He said something about hoping it works out." The phrasing was pure Marcus, supportive enough to avoid sounding cruel to our parents, but loaded with doubt about my chances of success. Tuesday morning arrived gray and cloudy, unusual for Phoenix in October. I chose a burgundy dress that Sarah insisted made me look corporate but approachable, and arrived at Morrison Financial Group 30 minutes early. The receptionist directed me to Conference Room B, a glass-walled space overlooking the city. I set up my laptop, arranged handout packets around the conference table, and tested the projection system twice. At 1:55, Diana entered with 7 men in expensive suits. They looked exactly like what I'd expected from a traditional investment firm: silver-haired, serious, and skeptical of anyone under 40 who claimed to understand business strategy. "Gentlemen, I'd like you to meet Alice Sterling from Sterling Creative Solutions." As I shook hands with each partner, I noticed one familiar face near the back of the group. Marcus had somehow gotten himself invited to this meeting. Marcus looked like he'd seen a ghost. He was standing near the back corner of the conference room, clutching a yellow legal pad, his usual confident posture replaced by something that resembled panic. Our eyes met for a split second before he quickly looked away, suddenly very interested in his notes. Diana began the introductions. "This is Robert Morrison, our founding partner. James Webb, head of portfolio management. David Richardson, operations director." I shook hands with each partner, maintaining professional composure while my mind raced. How had Marcus gotten into this meeting? Junior analysts weren't typically included in strategic presentations. Unless... "And you already know Marcus Sterling from our research team," Diana continued. "When I mentioned we were meeting with someone from Sterling Creative Solutions, he volunteered to provide analytical support for today's discussion." Marcus stepped forward, extending his hand like we were strangers meeting for the first time. "Miss Sterling, pleasure to meet you." His voice was steady, but I caught the slight tremor. He was terrified I'd expose our relationship and make him look foolish in front of the partners. For a moment, I considered doing exactly that. But something held me back. Maybe professionalism, maybe curiosity about how this would unfold. "Miss Sterling," I replied, matching his formal tone. "Thank you for joining us."
Diana gestured toward the presentation screen. Alice, whenever you're ready. I clicked on my first slide, a bold graphic showing Morrison's current digital footprint compared to their top 5 competitors. The numbers were stark. Morrison ranked last in every measurable category. Gentlemen, Morrison Financial Group manages over $300 million in client assets, but your digital presence suggests a company 1/10 that size. Robert Morrison, a distinguished man with silver hair, leaned forward. Miss Sterling, we've built this firm on personal relationships and proven results. Our clients don't choose us based on how many Facebook likes we have. You're absolutely right, Mr. Morrison, but your future clients are researching you online before they ever walk through your doors. 68% of high net worth individuals under 45 begin their search for financial advisors digitally. I clicked to the next slide, showing demographic trends. Your current client base averages 57 years old. In 10 years, a significant portion will be reducing their investment activity or passing assets to heirs. Meanwhile, millennials are entering their peak earning years with investment needs you're perfectly positioned to meet, if they can find you. James Webb, the portfolio management head, raised his hand. What exactly are our competitors doing that we're not?
Perfect question. I clicked through a series of slides showing competitor websites, LinkedIn content, and social media strategies. Prescott Wealth Management publishes weekly market insights that generate an average of 2,000 views. Their LinkedIn posts about retirement planning get shared by clients who become informal brand ambassadors. Sterling Financial, no relation, I added with a slight smile, has turned their senior partners into thought leaders by having them comment on market trends for local news stations. And this translates to actual business? Asked David Richardson. Prescott reported a 35% increase in new client inquiries last quarter. Sterling Financial landed 3 corporate accounts worth $8 million in combined assets, all through referrals from their digital content strategy. The partners exchanged glances. I could see the wheels turning. These were businessmen who understood numbers and results. Marcus hadn't said a word. He was furiously taking notes, probably trying to look useful while processing the fact that his pretend business sister was delivering a presentation that was clearly impressing his bosses. I clicked on our proposed strategy. Here's what we recommend for Morrison Financial Group. The next 20 minutes were the most important of my professional life. I walked them through a comprehensive 12-month plan, complete website redesign with client portal integration, LinkedIn thought leadership campaigns for each partner, educational video series explaining complex financial concepts, quarterly market analysis reports positioned as industry resources. We're not talking about generic social media posts, I explained. Every piece of content serves dual purposes, educating potential clients while demonstrating Morrison's expertise. I showed mock-ups of what their transformed digital presence would look like. Sarah's designs were stunning, sophisticated graphics that conveyed trustworthiness and innovation simultaneously. The investment is significant, I continued, but the ROI potential is substantial. Conservative projections show a 20% increase in qualified leads within 6 months. Robert Morrison sat back in his chair. Miss Sterling, I'll be honest. When Diana first suggested we needed a marketing agency, I was skeptical. But this presentation has changed my perspective entirely. James Webb nodded. The competitor analysis alone is worth the consultation fee. We've been operating in a bubble. Diana smiled. Alice, could you give us a few minutes to discuss this privately? Of course, I'll be right outside. I gathered my materials and stepped into the hallway, my heart pounding. Through the glass walls, I could see animated discussion. Marcus was still taking notes, occasionally nodding when one of the partners addressed him directly. After 10 minutes, Diana opened the conference room door. Alice, could you rejoin us? I walked back in to find 8 smiling faces. Well, 7 smiling faces and 1 very pale Marcus. We'd like to move forward, Robert Morrison announced. Diana will work out the contract details with you, but I want you to know that this is exactly the kind of strategic thinking Morrison needs. We're prepared to commit to the full 12-month proposal, Diana added, with one modification. We'd like to accelerate the timeline. Can you begin implementation within 2 weeks? My mind quickly calculated what that would mean. Additional staff, extended hours, front-loaded expenses. But the opportunity was too good to pass up. Absolutely, we'll make it work.
As the partners filed out, each stopped to shake my hand and express enthusiasm about the project. James Webb mentioned wanting to be the first partner featured in the video series. David Richardson asked about integrating the marketing strategy with their upcoming office expansion. Marcus lingered behind, pretending to organize his notes. When the room finally cleared except for Diana, she turned to me with an amused expression. I have to ask, did you know Marcus would be here today? I had no idea, but I'm glad he could contribute to the discussion. Diana chuckled. He didn't contribute much, but he took excellent notes. Actually, he seemed rather shocked by your presentation. I got the impression he wasn't familiar with your work. Like I mentioned, we don't discuss business much at family gatherings. Well, that might change now. This project is going to put Sterling Creative Solutions on the map in Phoenix. Word travels fast in the financial services community. After Diana and I scheduled our contract meeting for the following day, I rode the elevator down with Marcus, in complete silence. We walked through the lobby together, out into the October afternoon, before either of us spoke. Alice, he said quietly, I need to talk to you. We found a coffee shop 2 blocks from Morrison's building. Marcus ordered a large coffee and sat across from me, running his hands through his hair. I don't understand what just happened, he began. What don't you understand? That presentation, those numbers, the way the partners were looking at you like you'd just solved world hunger. He paused. Is your business actually real? The question was so absurd I almost laughed. Marcus, what did you think I was doing for the past 6 months? Playing make-believe? I don't know what I thought. I saw your business cards and your office rental as this elaborate way to avoid getting a real job. I figured you had maybe 2 or 3 clients paying you a few $100s each. And now? He was quiet for a long moment. Diana mentioned that Morrison is considering a 6-figure contract with your company. 6 figures, Alice. That's more than I make in a year. The irony wasn't lost on me. For months, Marcus had dismissed Sterling Creative Solutions as a hobby business while working at a company that desperately needed exactly the services I provided. He'd been surrounded by proof of his firm's digital marketing failures every day, yet he'd been so focused on mocking my fake business cards that he'd missed the obvious opportunity sitting right in front of him. There's something else, he continued. Diana asked me to prepare a report on your company's financial projections and growth potential. She wants me to present it to the executive committee next week. I raised an eyebrow. You're going to research my business? She specifically requested me because of our shared last name. She thinks having family involved adds a layer of trust and accountability. Marcus looked miserable. Alice, I need your help. I have no idea how to evaluate a marketing agency's performance metrics or growth projections. And if I mess this up, it could hurt both your contract and my standing with the partners. For the first time in our conversation, I smiled. Don't worry, Marcus. I think we can figure something out. The next morning brought a flurry of activity that would have been impossible to imagine 6 months earlier. Sarah arrived at the office with 3 coffee cups and a stack of industry reports she'd compiled overnight. I've been researching Morrison's competitors until 2 a.m., she announced, spreading documents across my desk. If we're going to accelerate this timeline, we need to understand exactly what we're up against. My phone had been buzzing since 7 a.m. with congratulatory texts. Apparently, word about the Morrison contract was already spreading through Phoenix's business community. Diana had mentioned that news traveled fast in financial services, but I hadn't expected it to happen within 12 hours. By 10 a.m., we'd received inquiry calls from 2 other investment firms and a commercial real estate company. Sterling Creative Solutions was suddenly on everyone's radar. Alice, Sarah said, looking up from her laptop, we're going to need help. There's no way 2 people can handle a project this size plus our existing clients. She was right. The Morrison contract alone would require dedicated project management, additional design work, content creation, and technical implementation that went far beyond our current capacity. Start putting together job postings, I said. We'll need at least 2 more full-time employees, maybe 3. As Sarah began drafting job descriptions, my phone rang. Marcus. Alice, can we meet today? I've been working on that financial analysis Diana requested, and I need to ask you some questions. We arranged to meet at a neutral location, a quiet restaurant in Scottsdale where we were unlikely to run into anyone from either of our professional circles. Marcus arrived looking haggard, carrying a leather portfolio that was significantly thicker than it had been the day before. I've been up most of the night trying to understand your business model, he began without preamble. Diana wasn't kidding about the executive committee presentation. She wants a comprehensive evaluation of Sterling Creative Solutions' financial stability, growth trajectory, and capacity to handle long-term contracts. He opened his portfolio, revealing pages of handwritten notes, printed financial forms, and industry research. The problem is, I specialize in analyzing established companies with years of documented revenue. You've been operating for 6 months. I ordered a salad and leaned back in my chair. What specific information do you need?
Everything. Monthly revenue figures, client retention rates, expense projections, cash flow analysis. Diana also wants me to evaluate your competitive positioning and scalability potential. For the next hour, I provided Marcus with detailed financial information that painted a picture of rapid, sustainable growth. Sterling Creative Solutions revenue has increased every month since launch. Client retention was 95%. Our profit margins were healthy, and we had a pipeline of potential projects worth more than our entire first-year revenue. Marcus took meticulous notes, occasionally stopping to ask clarification questions that revealed he was beginning to understand the sophistication of what I'd built. Your client acquisition cost is remarkably low, he observed. Most of your business comes from referrals? Satisfied clients are the best marketing strategy. And your pricing structure? You charge significantly more than I expected for marketing services. We don't compete on price, we compete on results. As I answered his questions, I watched Marcus's expression evolve from confusion to recognition to something approaching respect. He was seeing Sterling Creative Solutions through the analytical lens he used to evaluate major corporations, and the numbers told a compelling story. Alice, I owe you an apology, he said suddenly. I looked up from my notes. For what? For everything. The business card comments, the fake company jokes, treating your work like some kind of elaborate hobby. He closed his portfolio. I've been analyzing businesses for 3 years, and your growth metrics are better than most companies Morrison invests in. Marcus, you didn't know. No, that's just it. I should have known. I should have asked real questions instead of making assumptions. I should have looked at what you were actually accomplishing instead of dismissing it because it didn't fit my narrow definition of legitimate business. The conversation was interrupted by my phone ringing, Diana Chen. Alice, I hope I'm not interrupting anything important, but I wanted to give you a heads up about something that's developed since yesterday. What kind of development? Word about our partnership has reached some of our industry contacts. I've fielded 3 calls this morning from other firms asking about your services. More importantly, the Phoenix Business Journal wants to do a feature story about Morrison's digital transformation initiative. I grabbed a pen. A feature story? They're particularly interested in the local angle, a boutique Phoenix marketing firm landing a major financial services account. They want to interview both of us next week. After hanging up, I found Marcus staring at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. The Phoenix Business Journal? He asked. Apparently, our contract is newsworthy. Marcus was quiet for several minutes, processing what this meant. A feature story in the city's primary business publication would establish Sterling Creative Solutions as a major player in Phoenix's marketing landscape. It would also make it impossible for anyone to dismiss my company as anything less than legitimate. There's something I need to tell you, Marcus said finally. Yesterday, after your presentation, I had dinner with some colleagues from Morrison. The partners were incredibly impressed, but there was something else. He hesitated, then continued. Diana mentioned that Morrison is considering expanding their marketing partnership beyond the initial contract. If the first phase goes well, they're talking about bringing Sterling Creative Solutions on as their exclusive marketing agency for all divisions. My fork stopped halfway to my mouth. All divisions? Morrison has 3 separate business units: individual wealth management, corporate accounts, and institutional investments. Each one would need comprehensive marketing support. The implications were staggering. An exclusive contract with all of Morrison's divisions could easily be worth mid-six figures annually. It would transform Sterling Creative Solutions from a small boutique firm into one of Phoenix's premier marketing agencies. Marcus, why are you telling me this? Because Diana specifically asked me to evaluate whether your company has the capacity and infrastructure to handle that level of growth. My analysis is going to directly influence their decision. The weight of what he was saying settled over our conversation. Marcus held significant influence over the biggest opportunity of my professional life. 6 months ago, he'd been mocking my business cards. Now, he was essentially in charge of determining whether Sterling Creative Solutions would land a contract that could define the company's future. "What are you going to recommend?" I asked. Marcus looked directly at me for the first time during our conversation. "I'm going to tell them the truth, that Sterling Creative Solutions demonstrates exceptional financial management, innovative strategic thinking, and the kind of leadership that builds sustainable competitive advantages." "You're going to recommend approval?" "I'm going to recommend that Morrison lock you into an exclusive partnership before one of their competitors figure out what they're missing." That evening, I called an emergency staff meeting with Sarah. We needed to prepare for growth that would happen faster and at a larger scale than either of us had anticipated. "We're going to need office space that can accommodate at least 8 employees," I explained, plus conference facilities for client meetings, dedicated workstations for design and video production, maybe even a small studio for content creation. Sarah pulled up commercial real estate listings on her laptop. "There's a space in the warehouse district, 3,000 square feet, exposed brick, great natural light. It's been converted for creative businesses. Schedule a viewing for tomorrow morning." As Sarah made notes about our expansion timeline, I reflected on how dramatically everything had changed. 6 months ago, I'd been working from my kitchen table, hoping to build something meaningful. Now, I was planning to hire a team, lease professional office space, and potentially land an exclusive contract that would establish Sterling Creative Solutions as a major player in Phoenix's business community. And Marcus, who'd spent months dismissing my efforts as pretend business, was now actively advocating for my company's success. Sometimes, the most satisfying victories are the ones you never see coming. The Phoenix Business Journal interview took place on a Thursday morning at Morrison's downtown headquarters. I arrived 30 minutes early, wearing a charcoal gray suit that Sarah had insisted made me look like someone who closes million-dollar deals before lunch. The journalist, Rebecca Torres, had done her homework. She'd researched Sterling Creative Solutions thoroughly, interviewed several of my existing clients, and even spoken with competitors about the local marketing landscape. "Miss Sterling, what's unusual about your story is the speed of your growth," she began, setting up her recording equipment. "Most agencies take years to land clients of Morrison's caliber. You've been operating for 6 months. Diana Chen joined us for the interview, bringing coffee and the kind of corporate confidence that comes from 20 years in financial services. She and Rebecca clearly knew each other. Phoenix's business community was smaller and more interconnected than most people realized. Alice's presentation was unlike anything we'd seen from marketing agencies twice her company's size," Diana told Rebecca. "The level of strategic thinking and industry analysis was exceptional." The interview lasted 90 minutes. Rebecca asked detailed questions about my transition from corporate marketing to entrepreneurship, Sterling Creative Solutions' growth strategy, and our plans for expansion. She was particularly interested in the challenges of competing with established agencies. "The traditional model assumes bigger is always better," I explained, "but boutique firms can be more agile, more focused, and more accountable to individual clients. We're not trying to be everything to everyone." Diana added context about Morrison's decision-making process. "We interviewed 5 agencies before meeting with Sterling Creative Solutions. Alice was the only one who came prepared with specific insights about our industry challenges and competitive positioning." After Rebecca packed up her equipment, Diana walked me to the elevator. "There's something I wanted to discuss privately," she said. "The executive committee meeting is scheduled for Monday morning. Marcus will be presenting his analysis of your company's capacity for larger contracts." I nodded. He mentioned that. What he probably didn't mention is that his recommendation will essentially determine whether Morrison moves forward with expanded partnership discussions. The other partners trust his analytical judgment completely. The elevator arrived, but Diana made no move to get on. Alice, I want you to know that I'm impressed with how professionally you've handled the family dynamic in this situation. It couldn't have been easy having your brother evaluate your business. We're both professionals. Personal relationships don't belong in business decisions. Diana smiled, spoken like someone who understands how to build lasting client partnerships. That weekend, I toured the warehouse district office space with Sarah and our newly hired project manager, Kevin Chen, no relation to Diana, despite the shared surname. Kevin brought 5 years of agency experience and the kind of organizational skills that would be essential as we scaled up operations. The space was perfect. Exposed brick walls, industrial-style windows that flooded the interior with natural light, and an open floor plan that could accommodate our growing team. There was even a separate conference room with glass walls that would be ideal for client presentations. The lease terms are favorable, Kevin noted, reviewing the paperwork, and the location puts us in the heart of Phoenix's creative district. That's valuable for attracting top talent. Sarah was already mentally arranging furniture and planning the layout. We could put the design workstations near the windows for natural light, a conference room at the front for client access, and maybe create a small video production area in the back corner. I signed the lease that afternoon. Sunday dinner at my parents' house had an entirely different energy than usual. Marcus arrived looking more relaxed than I'd seen him in months. And for the first time since I'd started Sterling Creative Solutions, he didn't make a single joke about my business. Alice, your father and I are so proud of what you've accomplished, Mom said, passing the mashed potatoes. Marcus told us about the big contract you landed. Dad raised his wine glass. To Alice's success, and to Marcus for recognizing it. The toast was simple, but the acknowledgement felt significant. For months, family dinners had been tense affairs, where Marcus's skepticism cast a shadow over any discussion of my work. Now, with his public support at Morrison and his positive evaluation pending, the dynamic had completely shifted. There's something else, Marcus said, setting down his glass. I wanted you all to know that Alice's company is about to be featured in the Phoenix Business Journal. The article comes out Wednesday. Emma, who'd been quiet through most of dinner, suddenly looked up. Wait, like a real newspaper article about Alice's business? Front page of the business section, Marcus confirmed, with quotes from Morrison's partners about the strategic partnership. The conversation that followed was surreal. My parents asked detailed questions about Sterling Creative Solutions' growth plans, our new office space, and the additional employees we were hiring. Emma wanted to know if the Phoenix Business Journal article would be available online so she could share it with her friends. Marcus contributed thoughtful insights about industry trends and Morrison's expansion timeline. At one point, he mentioned that other investment firms were already inquiring about similar marketing partnerships. Alice is going to be busier than she ever imagined, he said. The demand for strategic digital marketing and financial services is exploding. After dinner, Marcus and I found ourselves alone on the back patio while our parents cleaned up. Your evaluation presentation is tomorrow morning, I said. 9 a.m. sharp. Diana scheduled it for the full executive committee. Are you nervous? Marcus laughed, not the condescending laugh I'd grown to dread, but something genuine and warm. Alice, I've never been more confident about a business analysis in my career. The numbers speak for themselves. And if the expanded partnership goes through? When it goes through, he corrected, Sterling Creative Solutions will be positioned as one of Phoenix's premier marketing agencies. You'll have more business than you can handle and a reputation that opens doors throughout the Southwest. We sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, watching the sunset paint the desert mountains in shades of gold and purple. Marcus, can I ask you something? Of course. What changed your mind? I mean, really changed it. Was it just seeing the financial projections? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. You know what it was? Watching you present to those partners. The way you commanded the room, the depth of your preparation, the confidence in your recommendations.
I realized I'd been so focused on the surface details, the business cards, the office rental, the job titles, that I'd completely missed the substance underneath. He turned to face me directly. Alice, you built something remarkable. You identified a market opportunity, developed expertise to address it, and executed a growth strategy that any MBA program would use as a case study. I was too stubborn and too narrow-minded to see it. I appreciate that. There's more. Watching you succeed made me realize how limited my own thinking had become. I'd gotten comfortable evaluating other people's achievements instead of building something myself. You took a risk, worked incredibly hard, and created value that didn't exist before. That takes courage I'm not sure I have. Monday morning arrived with the kind of crisp October weather that made Phoenix feel like the perfect place to build a business. I was in my new office by 7 a.m., reviewing final preparations for Morrison's expanded marketing campaign, while Sarah and Kevin set up workstations for our newest team members. At exactly 9:15 a.m., my phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Unanimous approval. Congratulations, Alice. You've earned this. 15 minutes later, Diana Chen called with the official news. Morrison Financial Group wanted to proceed with an exclusive 3-year marketing partnership covering all business divisions. The contract value exceeded every projection I dared to make. Sterling Creative Solutions had officially arrived. The Phoenix Business Journal article hit newsstands on Wednesday morning with a headline that exceeded my wildest expectations. Local marketing boutique lands major financial services partnership. The photo showed me and Diana Chen shaking hands in Morrison's conference room with the city skyline gleaming through the windows behind us. Rebecca Torres had crafted a story that positioned Sterling Creative Solutions as a rising force in Phoenix's business community. She quoted 3 of my existing clients, included financial projections that painted a picture of sustainable growth, and even managed to work in quotes from competitors who grudgingly acknowledged our innovative approach. By 10 a.m., my phone was ringing constantly. 2 more investment firms, a healthcare conglomerate, and a luxury real estate developer all wanted to schedule consultations. Sarah had started a waiting list for potential clients, something that would have seemed impossible just weeks earlier. Alice, we have a problem, Kevin announced during our morning team meeting. A good problem, but still a problem. We have more qualified leads than we can handle with our current staffing level. I looked around our new conference room, at the faces of our expanded team. Sarah, Kevin, our new graphic designer, Marcus Thompson. The name coincidence had made everyone laugh. Junior account manager, Lisa Rodriguez, and content strategist, David Park. 6 months ago, Sterling Creative Solutions had been a one-person operation. Now we were a legitimate agency with specialized talent and a pipeline of major clients. What do you recommend? We need to be strategic about which opportunities to pursue. Not every client is worth taking on, even if they have big budgets. Sarah nodded in agreement. We should focus on industries where we can develop deep expertise. Financial services is obviously our strength now, but maybe we expand into related fields: commercial real estate, insurance, legal services. The conversation was interrupted by an unexpected visitor. Marcus appeared in our conference room doorway, looking unusually formal in his best suit. Sorry to interrupt, he said. Alice, could I speak with you privately for a moment? We stepped into my office, where Marcus immediately sat down and pulled out an envelope. I have news, he began. Good news, but complicated news. What kind of complicated? Morrison's partners were so impressed with my analysis of Sterling Creative Solutions that they've offered me a promotion. Senior analyst with a focus on evaluating strategic partnerships and potential acquisitions. I raised an eyebrow. That's fantastic, Marcus. Congratulations. There's more. They want me to lead a new initiative, identifying and developing relationships with innovative local businesses that could become long-term Morrison partners. The implications were immediately clear. Marcus's new role would essentially make him Morrison's point person for discovering companies like mine. His success in recognizing Sterling Creative Solutions' potential had positioned him as someone who could spot emerging business opportunities. So your skepticism about my business cards accidentally launched your career in strategic analysis. Marcus laughed, something like that, though I prefer to think of it as learning to recognize excellence when I see it. He handed me the envelope. There's something else. Morrison wants to make our partnership official beyond just the marketing contract. I opened the envelope to find a formal proposal for Morrison Financial Group to make a minority equity investment in Sterling Creative Solutions. They wanted to purchase a 15% stake in my company, providing capital for expansion while maintaining my operational control. The numbers were staggering. Their proposed investment would value Sterling Creative Solutions at nearly $2 million for a company I'd started 6 months ago with my personal savings and a handful of business cards that Marcus had mocked.
This is incredible, I said, reviewing the terms. But why? They already have an exclusive marketing contract. Because they think you're going to be huge. Diana convinced the partners that Sterling Creative Solutions represents the future of strategic marketing, and they want to be invested in that future. I set the proposal on my desk, still processing what this meant. Marcus, I need to ask you something directly. Did you advocate for this investment because you believe in my company, or because you wanted to repair our relationship? Marcus's expression became serious. Alice, I advocated for this investment because Sterling Creative Solutions shows every indicator of becoming a major player in Phoenix's business community. The relationship repair is just a happy side effect. And if I hadn't been your sister? If you hadn't been my sister, I would have recommended this investment even more strongly because I wouldn't have had any personal bias clouding my judgment. That afternoon, I called an emergency meeting with Sarah and Kevin to discuss the equity investment proposal. Their reaction was immediate enthusiasm. Alice, this changes everything, Sarah said. With Morrison's capital, we could expand into multiple markets, hire senior-level talent, maybe even acquire smaller agencies. Kevin was already running numbers. A $2 million valuation puts us in the top tier of marketing agencies in Arizona. That's remarkable growth for 6 months. But it also means giving up some control, I pointed out. Morrison would have input on major strategic decisions. Diana Chen isn't exactly known for micromanaging, Sarah replied, and having Morrison as an equity partner would open doors we couldn't access otherwise. The decision ultimately came down to vision. Did I want Sterling Creative Solutions to remain a boutique agency, or was I ready to build something larger? The Morrison investment would accelerate our growth timeline by years, but it would also mean operating at a scale that required different skills and different thinking. I spent the weekend reviewing the proposal with a business attorney and an accountant. Both advised accepting the terms, which they described as extremely favorable for an early-stage company. Monday morning, I called Diana Chen to schedule a meeting. Alice, I'm assuming you've had time to review the equity proposal. I have. I'd like to accept, with one modification. What kind of modification? I want to offer a small equity stake to my key employees, Sarah Martinez and Kevin Chen. They've been instrumental in building Sterling Creative Solutions, and they should share in its success. Diana paused. That's actually exactly the kind of leadership thinking that convinced us to make this investment in the first place. Employee ownership creates the kind of long-term commitment that drives sustainable growth. So we have a deal? We have a deal. The signing ceremony took place the following Thursday in Morrison's executive conference room. Diana, Robert Morrison, and 2 other partners were present, along with Marcus in his new role as Strategic Partnerships Analyst. Sarah and Kevin joined me as newly minted equity partners in Sterling Creative Solutions. As I signed the final documents, I thought about the business cards that had started this entire journey. Marcus had dismissed them as fake, pretentious, overpriced pieces of paper, but those cards had represented something real, a vision of what I wanted to build, the confidence to call myself a founder and creative director, the belief that Sterling Creative Solutions could become something significant. 6 months later, that vision had become reality in ways I'd never imagined. After the ceremony, Marcus and I found ourselves alone in the elevator, heading down to the parking garage. Alice, there's one more thing I want to say. What's that? I've been thinking about those business cards a lot lately. The ones I made fun of at Mom's birthday dinner? The elevator reached the parking level and opened, but neither of us moved to get out. You know what I realize now? Marcus continued. Those cards weren't fake. They were aspirational. You printed them before you had the clients or the revenue or the office space because you could see what Sterling Creative Solutions was going to become. That takes vision I didn't recognize at the time. And now? Marcus smiled. The same genuine smile I remembered from when we were kids, before careers and competition had complicated our relationship. Now, I'm proud to tell people that my sister is the founder and CEO of one of Phoenix's fastest-growing marketing agencies. And I keep one of your original business cards in my wallet as a reminder that the most successful people are usually the ones who believe in their vision before anyone else does. As we walked to our cars, I reflected on how dramatically everything had changed. Sterling Creative Solutions had grown from a one-person operation to a thriving agency with equity investment from a major financial firm. My relationship with Marcus had evolved from sibling rivalry to mutual professional respect. Most importantly, I'd proven to myself that taking risks and believing in your own vision can lead to success beyond what you initially dare to imagine. As we walked to our cars, I reflected on how dramatically everything had changed. Sterling Creative Solutions had grown from a one-person operation to a thriving agency with equity investment from a major financial firm. My relationship with Marcus had evolved from sibling rivalry to mutual professional respect. Most importantly, I'd proven to myself that taking risks and believing in your own vision can lead to success beyond what you initially dare to imagine. The business cards that started it all were now framed on my office wall, a reminder that sometimes the most important step in building something real is simply having the confidence to print your dreams on premium cardstock and call them legitimate. 3 months after signing the equity deal with Morrison Financial Group, Sterling Creative Solutions had transformed into something I barely recognized. Our warehouse district office buzzed with activity from a team of 12 full-time employees, including specialists in video production, data analytics, and client strategy. The exposed brick walls now displayed awards from the Phoenix Marketing Association and framed client testimonials that read like success stories. Sarah had been promoted to creative director, Kevin to operations manager, and we'd brought in Jennifer Walsh as our first senior vice president, a marketing veteran who'd previously run campaigns for Fortune 500 companies. The boutique agency that Marcus had once dismissed as playing house now had department heads, quarterly planning sessions, and a waiting list of potential clients that stretched into the following year. But the most unexpected development wasn't professional growth, it was personal. Marcus had started stopping by our office regularly, ostensibly to check on Morrison's marketing campaigns, but really to observe how we operated. He'd sit in on our creative sessions, ask thoughtful questions about campaign strategy, and offer insights from his analysis of financial services trends. "You know what's fascinating about your approach," he said during one of these visits, reviewing mock-ups for Morrison's new client acquisition campaign. "Traditional agencies focus on demographic targeting, but you're building emotional connections. That's why your retention rates are so high." Jennifer looked up from her laptop. "Marcus, have you ever considered transitioning from financial analysis to marketing strategy? You have good instincts for this work." The comment was casual, but it planted a seed that would grow into something neither Marcus nor I anticipated. 2 weeks later, Marcus invited me to lunch at the same restaurant where we'd first discussed his evaluation of my company. But this time, he was the one asking for advice. "Alice, I need to tell you something. I've been thinking about leaving Morrison." I nearly choked on my iced tea. "Leaving? But you just got promoted. You're Morrison Rising Star in strategic analysis." That's exactly the problem. I'm good at analyzing other people's businesses, but I'm not building anything myself. Watching Sterling Creative Solutions grow has made me realize how much I want to create something instead of just evaluating what other people have created. Marcus had been researching startup opportunities in Phoenix's growing tech sector. He'd identified gaps in financial technology services for small businesses, areas where his analytical skills and industry connections could create real value. "I want to start a fintech consulting firm, help small businesses optimize their financial operations, access better banking services, and navigate investment opportunities. There's huge demand for it, but no one's serving that market effectively." The irony was perfect. 6 months earlier, Marcus had lectured me about getting a real job instead of playing entrepreneur. Now he was planning to leave his secure corporate position to start his own company. "What's holding you back?" I asked. "Honestly, I'm terrified I'll fail as badly as I thought you were going to fail." The admission was vulnerable and honest in a way that reminded me why I'd looked up to Marcus when we were younger. Before careers and competition had created distance between us, he'd been someone I admired for his intelligence and ambition. "Marcus, you've spent 3 years analyzing successful businesses. You understand market dynamics, financial modeling, and strategic planning better than most MBA graduates. If anyone can identify a viable business opportunity, it's you. But what if I'm wrong? What if I leave Morrison and my consulting firm becomes another cautionary tale about corporate employees who couldn't handle entrepreneurship?" I reached across the table and touched his hand. "Then you'll learn from the experience and try something else. But Marcus, what if you're right? What if you build something that changes how small businesses think about financial management?" That conversation marked a turning point in our relationship. For the first time since childhood, Marcus was asking for my advice instead of offering unsolicited criticism. The dynamic shift felt healing in ways I hadn't expected. Over the following weeks, Marcus began developing his business plan with the same methodical approach he'd used to analyze Sterling Creative Solutions. He researched target markets, interviewed potential clients, and built financial projections that demonstrated clear revenue potential. The real surprise came when he asked if I'd review his marketing strategy. "I know how to identify business opportunities," he explained, "but I have no idea how to communicate value propositions or build brand awareness. Could Sterling Creative Solutions help me develop a launch strategy?" Working on Marcus's marketing plan became a collaborative project that brought our teams together in unexpected ways. Sarah designed a logo that perfectly captured his firm's professional expertise. Kevin developed a content strategy that positioned Marcus as a thought leader in small business finance. Jennifer created a launch timeline that would build momentum through strategic partnerships and industry connections. But the most meaningful moment came when Marcus showed me his business cards. He'd chosen the same premium cardstock I'd used for Sterling Creative Solutions, with clean typography and subtle design elements that conveyed both sophistication and approachable. Under his name, the title read Founder and Financial Strategist. I figured if you could call yourself founder and creative director when you had 3 clients, I can call myself founder and financial strategist before I have any clients at all. His smile was mischievous, but there was no mockery in it, just acknowledgement of how much we'd both changed. Marcus's company, Phoenix Financial Strategies, launched 6 months later with a client roster that included 2 of my marketing clients who needed exactly the kind of financial consulting he provided. His office was 3 blocks from Sterling Creative Solutions, and we began referring business to each other regularly. The first joint client project came through Morrison Financial Group. Diana Chen had a corporate client who needed comprehensive business development support, marketing strategy from Sterling Creative Solutions, and financial optimization from Phoenix Financial Strategies. "This is perfect," Diana told us during the project kickoff meeting. "Alice handles the external messaging and brand development, Marcus handles the internal financial systems, and Morrison manages the investment portfolio. Complete business development in one coordinated package." The collaboration was seamless. Marcus's financial analysis informed our marketing messaging, while our customer research provided insights that shaped his operational recommendations. We were no longer siblings competing for professional validation. We'd become business partners, leveraging complementary expertise. A year after that first Morrison meeting where Marcus had witnessed my presentation, we found ourselves back in the same conference room. But this time, we were presenting together, proposing a comprehensive business development program that combined marketing, financial strategy, and investment services for Morrison corporate clients. The presentation lasted 2 hours and covered everything from market analysis to implementation timelines. Diana and the partners asked detailed questions that demonstrated genuine interest in expanding our partnership. As we packed up our materials, Robert Morrison approached us with an unexpected observation. "You know, when Diana first told me we were working with siblings who ran separate companies, I was concerned about potential conflicts of interest. But watching you 2 work together has been impressive. You complement each other's strengths perfectly."
Walking to the parking garage afterward, Marcus and I reflected on how dramatically our relationship had evolved. Alice, do you remember what you said when I first saw your business cards about building something that matters? I remember. I didn't understand what you meant then. I thought business was about profit margins and competitive advantages. But working with you this year has shown me that the companies that really matter are the ones that help other people build something meaningful too. Sterling Creative Solutions had grown beyond anything I'd imagined when I first printed those business cards. We now employed 15 people, worked with clients across the Southwest, and had been recognized as Phoenix's Emerging Marketing Agency of the Year. But the success that mattered most wasn't measured in revenue or awards. It was the relationship I'd rebuilt with Marcus, based on mutual respect instead of sibling rivalry. As we reached our cars, Marcus pulled out his wallet and showed me the original Sterling Creative Solutions business card he'd kept as a reminder. I still carry this, he said, not because it reminds me of my mistakes, but because it reminds me that believing in your vision before anyone else does is the most important business skill there is. Looking at that card, the same one he'd mocked at family dinner 2 years earlier, I realized that sometimes the greatest victories aren't the ones you planned for. They're the relationships you repair, the respect you earn, and the moment when someone who doubted your dreams becomes your biggest advocate. The business cards that started as a symbol of my professional ambition had become something more valuable. Proof that with enough persistence, vision, and genuine effort, you can change not just your own life, but the way the people closest to you see what's possible. But the story doesn't end there. 6 months after our joint Morrison presentation, something happened that neither Marcus nor I could have predicted.
Phoenix Business Journal called again. This time, Rebecca Torres wanted to do a feature story about sibling entrepreneurs who'd built complementary businesses. The headline would read, "From Rivalry to Partnership, How Two Phoenix Siblings Built a Business Empire." The interview took place in my office conference room, with Marcus joining via video call from his own office down the street. Rebecca was fascinated by our transformation from skeptical siblings to collaborative business partners. Marcus, when you first saw Alice's business cards, did you ever imagine you'd be running your own startup 2 years later? She asked. Honestly, I thought entrepreneurship was something other people did. People who were naturally risk takers or had wealthy families to fall back on. Alice showed me that successful businesses are built on preparation, persistence, and genuine value creation, not just bold personalities or lucky breaks. Rebecca turned to me. Alice, what advice would you give to someone whose family doesn't support their entrepreneurial ambitions? Focus on results, not opinions. When I started Sterling Creative Solutions, I could have spent months trying to convince Marcus that my vision was legitimate. Instead, I focused on building something undeniably successful. Eventually, the results spoke louder than any argument I could have made. The article was published 3 weeks later, generating more media attention than either of our companies had received individually. Local television stations wanted interviews. Business podcasts requested guest appearances. The Arizona Entrepreneurs Association asked us to speak at their annual conference about family dynamics in business. Most surprisingly, we started receiving inquiries from other family members who wanted to explore business opportunities with us. Emma, my sister, who'd been planning her wedding during my early struggles with Sterling Creative Solutions, approached us about starting an event planning company that would handle corporate functions for our combined client base. You two have figured out how to work together professionally without letting family drama interfere, she said during Sunday dinner at our parents' house. I want to learn how to do that. Dad, who'd spent years encouraging us to play nice at family gatherings, suddenly found himself surrounded by children who were actively collaborating on business ventures. The dinner conversations shifted from polite updates about our jobs to strategic discussions about market opportunities and partnership potentials. I never imagined all 3 of my children would become entrepreneurs, Mom said, refilling wine glasses. When you were teenagers, I just hoped you'd learn to stop arguing long enough to get through a family meal. The success had unexpected personal benefits beyond family harmony. Marcus and I began spending time together outside of work contexts, something that hadn't happened since college.
We discovered shared interests in hiking Arizona's desert trails and exploring Phoenix's emerging food scene. Our conversations covered topics beyond business strategy and client development. You know what's strange? Marcus said during a Saturday morning hike through South Mountain Park. I actually look forward to our business meetings now. Not just because the projects are interesting, but because working with you has been one of the most rewarding professional experiences I've had. Even more rewarding than analyzing other people's companies for Morrison? Especially more than that. Creating something new is completely different from evaluating something that already exists. It requires different skills, different thinking, and different courage. The hiking conversation led to our next major business development. Marcus had been researching expansion opportunities for Phoenix financial strategies and identified potential markets in Tucson and Flagstaff. Sterling Creative Solutions had been receiving inquiries from businesses throughout Arizona who wanted comprehensive marketing support. What if we formalized our partnership, Marcus suggested as we reached the mountain summit? Not a merger, but a strategic alliance that lets us pursue larger opportunities together. The concept was intriguing. A formal partnership between Sterling Creative Solutions and Phoenix Financial Strategies would allow us to compete for contracts that required both marketing expertise and financial consulting. We could offer clients integrated business development services that few other firms could match. We spent the following month developing a partnership structure that preserved each company's independence while creating frameworks for collaboration. Jennifer Walsh helped negotiate terms that protected both firms' interests. Sarah designed marketing materials that showcased our combined capabilities. The first major test of our formal partnership came through an unexpected source: Morrison Financial Group's biggest competitor. Callywell Investment Partners had been watching our success with Morrison and wanted to explore similar business development support. But their needs were more complex than Morrison's had been. They wanted comprehensive rebranding, financial systems optimization, and market expansion strategy for 3 separate business divisions. This is exactly the kind of opportunity our partnership was designed for, Marcus said during our proposal development meeting. Neither of our companies could handle this scope independently, but together we can deliver everything they need. The Caldwell presentation lasted 3 hours and included detailed analysis of their current market position, recommendations for operational improvements, and projected outcomes from our integrated approach. Their executive team asked challenging questions about implementation timelines, measurable results, and coordination between our firms. 2 weeks later, Caldwell Investment Partners signed a 2-year contract worth more than either of our companies had ever landed individually. The project would require expanding both teams, developing new service capabilities, and establishing project management systems for complex multi-firm collaborations. Alice, Marcus said after we signed the Caldwell contract, "Do you realize what we've built here? 2 successful companies that work well together? More than that, we've created a business model that other sibling entrepreneurs are going to study and replicate. The combination of your creative strategy expertise and my financial analysis skills addresses market needs that neither of us could serve alone." The Caldwell project's success generated additional opportunities throughout Arizona's business community. Other investment firms wanted similar integrated services. Technology companies needed marketing support combined with financial planning for rapid growth. Healthcare organizations required rebranding initiatives alongside revenue optimization strategies. Within 18 months of formalizing our partnership, Sterling Creative Solutions and Phoenix Financial Strategies had become Arizona's leading provider of integrated business development services. Our combined teams included 25 employees across multiple specializations. But perhaps the most satisfying development was watching other family businesses reach out for advice about collaborative entrepreneurship. Brothers who'd started competing companies wanted guidance on partnership structures. Sisters with complementary skills sought mentorship about launching joint ventures. "We've accidentally become experts on something I never expected," I told Marcus during one of our quarterly planning sessions: family business dynamics and sibling partnership strategies. "Maybe we should write a book," he suggested. "From Business Cards to Business Partners, a guide to sibling entrepreneurship." The suggestion was half joking, but it planted another seed for future development. Our story had evolved from personal conflict to professional success to industry leadership. The business cards that had once symbolized our different perspectives on legitimacy and ambition now represented something entirely different. Proof that family relationships can become powerful foundations for business innovation when approached with mutual respect and shared vision. Looking back on that first family dinner where Marcus had mocked my fake business cards, I realized that neither of us could have predicted the journey that followed. We'd both grown in ways that surprised us, challenged assumptions that had limited our thinking, and discovered that the most rewarding successes often come from unexpected collaborations with people who know us well enough to push us toward excellence. Looking for more? We've got two amazing stories ready for you right on screen. If this one touched you, these are absolutely worth your time. Click to watch them now. And hey, subscribe and hit that bell to never miss our latest uploads.